Hey everybody, it's me, Scott. I'm here at the International Fountain at the Seattle Center in the rain, and this is my Seattle life.
When gold was discovered in Alaska, Seattle placed itself as a kickoff point for all the gold panhandlers that would be on their way. In 1909, Seattle hosted the Alaska-Yukon Exposition. They held that on the campus of what is now the State University. 50 years later, city planners wanted another fair. They decided the Festival of the West would celebrate that 50-year anniversary. They couldn't get their shit together, and the deadline passed, which caused the entire project to lose a lot of momentum. But when the Russians launched Sputnik in 1957, the space race was launched, and a new focus took on the fair committee. Festival of the West was OUT, out. Science and space took center stage. And now, Seattle would present the Century 21 Exposition, also known as the Seattle World's Fair.
The Seattle Center was built in about a year for the 1962 World's Fair. The campus is only 74 acres and it includes a game stadium. The original fair only ran from April to October that year, and still over 9 million guests attended. It's pretty good. Today the Seattle Center is an unparalleled public gathering space, probably unique in the world in that it provides home to over 30 different cultural, entertainment, and educational venues. Things like the Pacific Science Center, the Pacific Northwest Ballet, the Seattle Opera at McGraw Hall, the Chihuly Garden and Glass House Exhibition and Cafe, the Museum of Pop Culture, Mopop, the Seattle Children's Museum, the Key Arena. The campus also provides a stage for over 16,000 events and activities all year long, but let's be honest, half of those are face-painting clowns. Not that there's anything wrong with that, especially if you know one or are a face-painting clown. Neat. Oh, this mural behind me? It was built in 1962 as well. It's always kind of reminded me of refrigerator art. This is the Armory. It was built in 1939 to house the 146th Field Artillery and their half-ton tanks. As a matter of fact, they're still bearing the markings of a firing range in the basement and a pool for the troops, which I think I'm going to go look for because that sounds fun. In 1962, it was reworked for the World's Fair and renamed the Food Circus, the International Food Circus. Anyway, it was a three-story affair with shopping and Chinese food and international food from everywhere. Belgium, heard of it? Waffles? Oh, and there was a Bubbleator. The Bubbleator was a feature in the State of Washington Pavilion, housed in the newly constructed Washington Coliseum. Now known as the Key Arena, this is still a really important venue for when people like Sting come to town. Fairgoers would board an acrylic, bubble-shaped elevator up to 100 at a time. Picture it. Futuristic Bubbleator with a bubble pilot clad in a tinfoil onesie, ominously addressing the crowd from a chrome podium, beseeching them to move to the rear of the sphere. The Bubbleator then lifted the guests up into a nest of aluminum cubes that had multimedia. They would then walk down ramps through the pavilion and learn all about the state of Washington in the 21st century. After the fair, the Bubbleator was moved here to the newly renamed Center House, where it shuttled guests up and down 3 floors of food and shopping until the mid-'80s. In the 80s, it was dismantled finally as an old relic and broken down for pieces parts. It still exists around the area. The podium and chair are at the Museum of History and Industry, and the original bubble is now a huge backyard terrarium in Burien.
The theme of the fair was the 21st century, so science was a key element in the overall design. Here, the United States government focused on science instead of the normal displays about tourism and history. And they gave us the Pacific Science Center. The Science Center was designed by Minoru Yamasaki, who went on later to design the World Trade Center in New York. I think you can see the similarities in style. Today it has an IMAX. They didn't have that in '62. So that brings us to the Grand Dam, doesn't it? The queen of them all, the Space Needle, the reason that Seattle is what Seattle is today. Of course, as you can see, she's under a bit of construction right now, having what they call a little space lift. So we won't be going up today because they're turning that thing into the future of all things. You see it's covered right now. They're putting in a glass floor. They're putting in glass walls, glass benches, glass chairs. Glass, baby. Really over $100 million worth of private funded situation going on there. I mean, that's, a lot of construction going on. And I personally am not interested in a construction site that's 500 feet off the ground. But we'll do a huge comeback show once we'll do a huge comeback show. Looks like I'm out of time. This is the all-weg monorail system. This is the original system that was built back in 1962 and is the same system that was used at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. As a matter of fact, I think it's the only all-weg system outside of Disneyland and Walt Disney World. This is where I'm going to leave you, right here on the monorail platform. This express monorail is going to take me right back downtown where I can catch connecting buses to the rest of the city. Hey, I love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming and seeing me. See you next time on My Seattle Life.